Hey, what is going on, everyone? It's me, Mr. Mario, and welcome back to another episode of Mario's Minutes. For those who don't know, this is a podcast I do here. This is the second podcast I do, actually. My first one, my main one, Mod Chat, is a little bit more structured, edited. There's more of a visual component to it. And on there, I talk about new things in the world of video game modding, video game console modding, all that fun stuff that I find interesting, want to share, want to do some show and tell, talk about, what have you. This is not that, though. This here is Mario's Minute, where I really just come on here and talk about whatever the hell I want to talk about. Sometimes I have a guest on, sometimes I don't, and that's usually just how it goes. So I've been pretty good about kind of alternating between month to month on here, having a guest or no guest, but admittedly, the last 2 months I slipped a little bit. There were some solo episodes right there. However, before we even really get fully into this here, there's a few places you can find this episode. I'm not sure how you're personally consuming it right now. However, you can find it in a video visual format here on the Mr. Mario 2011 YouTube, Odyssey, and Rumble channels, and you can also find it as a actual audio only podcast, so you can take it around wherever the hell you want to, just like a real actual podcast. You can look up Mario's Minute on your favorite podcasting app, host, site, or provider, and you should hopefully be able to find it. I know it's not available on all of them, but it's available on most of them. Either way, we are breaking the solo spell here with a guest this time around, and it's someone I've known for several years here, and he's actually a repeat guest at this point. This is his second time coming on here. So, as I always ask here to my guest, who the hell are you?
Hi. That's a really good question this time around because I'm not really sure. I've been taking like a little bit of a content break, but hi, my name is Colin, and I mean primarily I associate myself with Source Gaming, which is a Nintendo slash Smash Brothers focused site. Although we've been branching out as of the last few years, and sometimes I stream. Sometimes I rant on Twitter, but mostly it's just been posting on Letterboxd. So that's my Letterboxd. If you love uh barely paragraphs that I write in less than 5 minutes, Letterboxd is the site for you.
I'll have to. I've never been on Letterbox. I'll have to check it out at one point.
Yeah,
That's just like that's all movies, everything movies, right?
it's like a film. It's a film journal site. Most people use it as kind of like it's like a bigger version of IMDb user
Okay.
ratings, if you remember
Yeah.
if you remember that.
Yeah, dude. I
But
remember Yahoo movie reviews.
oh hell yeah. But yeah, this is
Yeah.
more like it's like based around like journaling about like like when you watched a movie, your rating, your thoughts. I
I
actually
got you.
really like it. People post like stupid bullshit on there all the time, but people post stupid bullshit on every social media site. So I
That's
can't
fair.
really get mad at it. It's just a good tool.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. And then, like, hey, if you find something that you like, then that's what you like, and you stick to it. So there's nothing wrong with that. Just like you said, for some Twitter rant and stuff. That's mostly where I know you and kind of like talk to you
Yeah.
from on there.
Well, it's X now.
I was gonna say I refuse to call it
It's
X. It's still Twitter. You type in twitter.com, it's still there. Like
I'm on Blue Sky.
I'm not on Blue
Hey.
Sky. Yeah, man, all of the Twitter alternatives. I'm just so tired. I am so
Yeah.
tired. That's why I'm like, honestly, I think I'm just gonna be sticking with Twitter, still calling it Twitter, like until the end, like when it just like cuts out or something.
I think the funniest thing about Twitter is that like the whole reason to like pay for Twitter Blue or whatever is because Twitter like doesn't make money off of people just using the site.
Yep.
So if you just use the site, then you're just wasting their money and bandwidth. Like you're
Well,
they're
that
really not getting that
and
much.
and that's a whole other thing. I saw like Lewis Rossman. He had done a video talking about when Reddit did the whole blackout for like 2 or 3 days, something like that, which was
Yeah.
just it wasn't gonna go anywhere. But with that, he said that a lot of companies like that, like Twitter, Reddit, where they were just growing, like they started in like the mid late aughts, and then they've been going on through the tens, and now we're in the 20s. And the problem is they've just thought, okay, if we keep bringing in users, bringing in content, users are generating all this content. If it's just like a place to post, the money will come. And
Yeah.
now it's kind of getting to the point the last few years where all these companies are realizing like, oh, this is not profitable.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how like I mean before before that guy bought Twitter, like they were just introducing random new features that like no one asked for left and right,
Yep.
which is like not a bad thing because it didn't cost anything to the end user. It's just like, oh, now my screen's like a just a little bit more cluttered. But like, I would like fleets to come back.
I
It
didn't
was a
care.
good. I don't know how they expected to make money off of it, but it was cool. It
I did
was
not care for
nice.
fleets at all. I'm happy that one died. One that's been surprising, which I have not participated in at all, but Spaces, I am
Oh
shocked that
yeah.
has done as well as it has.
Well, that's because it came out when Clubhouse came out, and Clubhouse was like, remember Clubhouse?
Yeah, that died, right?
Yeah,
Or
that
it's
died almost
okay.
immediately because Twitter happened. You no
Okay.
longer needed a closed invite iOS app. It was just like
Okay.
now it's on Twitter.
Okay. Okay. I wondered what happened with that app, but yeah, I remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, it's so cool. How many websites just appear and then just disappear.
Right, right. Yeah, that's
Internet's
how it
so
goes. And
fun.
yeah, and then you have to like archive everything and it's hard to find the stuff on there. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Either way, I guess moving on from this here, I did want to share something technical with you. I guess this is a story for the masses, but also I thought you'd get a kick out of this. And then we have
Ooh.
some other stuff we were going to get excited with here. Now, this was recently. This is a story about a PlayStation 4 Pro and an original Xbox. So, I have a neighbor of mine who she's 18 and she has
Okay.
a PS4 Pro. And I didn't even like she doesn't know that much about it. It's like I think her brother gave it to her and she just knew it was a PS4, so I assumed it was like a regular or a slim one.
Okay.
And what happened was like at one point like months ago cuz like usually when I'm out with my dog we end up talking a little bit and then she's eventually ended up finding out I know a little bit about tech stuff. I know a little bit about consoles. And like we both like anime and video games. So at one point she was like, "Oh, hey, like can you clean up my PS4 because it's kind of loud?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure."
Oh. Oh no.
Yeah, so man, I get this thing and well first of all, thankfully this didn't happen, but she was like, "Yeah, I think even like one of the dogs we had peed on it."
Oh
And
god.
I like, "Are you kidding me?" So I'm like, "Okay, I got to kind of brace myself for a biohazard." But either way, we scheduled time. She brought this thing over. It was the Destiny 2 PS4 Pro, so
Oh
it's the white
man.
one. It had like streaks of something all over it. I don't
Oh.
know. Like we didn't even clean the outside because we just didn't have time. And I just told her, I'm like, "Hey, take like some Lysol wipes or take like some Windex and like spray it down real good and just wipe it off. We don't have time to clean the outside here. We're gonna get the inside." And dude, when I tell you, when I started opening up this thing, it's a literal pain to to open up the PS4 Pro.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, it is.
I think out of all of like the various video game like ecosystems, PlayStation stuff is like the hardest to like pop open.
It can be, yeah, but quite literally the PS4 Pro, dude, to pop off the top and bottom like large flat plastics. The best tip: use a old shirt or an old towel of some kind.
Oh my
I've
god.
known people who did not use that. Not only it lessens the pain, but I've known people who just went in with bare hands and they were bleeding from it.
Holy shit.
Yeah, the Pro specifically, it's really gnarly to open up, but
Yeah.
once you get to it, it's like we kept having because I'm doing this in my office and we kept like we'd open up a bit and then I think we went into my garage 3 or 4 times because we would like take the parts there, blow the dust out of it, and then come back up and then take a little more apart. But man, there was a giant like dust bunny colony essentially in there. Thankfully, they didn't seem like there was any liquid damage, so I wasn't worried about that. But giant colony. At one point, I took out the power supply, and I kid you not, it's like I took out the power supply. I start spraying it like just not vacuuming, just like blowing all the dust and stuff out of it. And it's like I sprayed this thing for like a minute, pushing air through it, and there's still little bits of stuff coming out.
Oh.
And I asked her, I'm like, "What happened to this?" She's like, "I don't know." I'm like, "No, it's your PS4. Like, what? How did it get to this point?" But we ended up doing that. The nice thing was I even told her because I have the original PS4 Pro models that are just super loud no matter what you do.
Yeah.
So I told her, I said, "Hey, I'm gonna clean this all up, repaste it, put it back together. Just a heads up, it's still probably gonna be a bit loud, but it will be better than before." We put it all back together. I turn the thing on. She's immediately like, wait, what did you do? I'm like, what are you talking about? She says the power button didn't work before. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Okay. But apparently so the buttons are now working again. Then we end up popping in a game. We tried Code Vein, and I asked how long it takes to get the system to, get loud. And she said, "Oh, once we get in game, it's like a minute in. It will start. She also kept saying sounding. She's like, it's gonna just start sounding, which I'm like, that's not the proper term, but okay. But we we ended up like getting in game, and she was just amazed because this thing made no noise. And I'm like, okay, let's try and stress it a bit. And like the game didn't look like the game looked like it was struggling a bit, but we tried running it for like 15, 20 minutes, could not get this thing to make any noise. The loudest
Wow.
thing on this system was the hard drive in there.
The first quiet PS4 Pro.
There we go. Yeah. And then I looked it up, and it looked like the Destiny 2 bundle ended up coming about a year after the Pro ended up initially releasing.
Okay. Wow.
So at that point,
Oh, so it's
at that point, it was a more revised one where it was
yeah.
how do I say it was a lot quieter.
It's like more power efficient, I think.
There we go.
Because that was
Yeah,
the deal with the early PS4s would just like
dude. Yeah,
they would just like drink like wattage from the wall, and
I
then they made
think
that
so because
Uncharted like 4 one, and it like was finally quiet for the first time ever.
my close to launch PS4 was quite loud. I have another PS4 here, just a regular one that's also it can get loud. The Slims, I've never heard any issues with them. Like my girlfriend has a Slim, she never ever complained about the noise on it. And then the initial Pro runs of the Pro, those ones were really loud.
Yeah, I think I have an early Pro model, and that thing is it can scream when it
Yeah, yeah,
really when it
you'll
really
know because you
wants
like
to.
you put in like any moderate type game, play it for like 5 minutes, and it's screaming.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I keep mine in like a pretty high spot too, so like
Okay.
it airs out a lot better. But yeah, like I think what was it? I think I was streaming like the Order 1886 or something, and like that's not even like a pro enhanced game, and it
Mm-mm.
was it
It
was
does
like
doesn't matter, man. It
yeah,
doesn't
it was
matter.
going crazy.
Yep. Yeah, because my pros, like I said, the both of them, and it's like I did the same thing on there. I opened them up, I cleared out all the dust, I replaced the thermal paste on there, and just as loud as they were before.
Oh, you know it's a good one, Monster Hunter World. That'll make any if you need a PlayStation console to scream, you just pop in Monster Hunter World.
I think the worst one for me was on the Pro Final Fantasy 15 and running it at
Oh yeah.
the uncapped
Oh
frame
god.
rate.
Oh
Because when
god.
you do the because the thing is the game physically cannot be at 60 frames stable on PS4 Pro. So when you unlock the frame rate, it just utilizes the absolute maximum power of the PS4 Pro
Oh
at
my
any given
god.
time.
Yeah, I was gonna say that probably like Kingdom Hearts 3 will do that.
Kingdom Hearts 3 wasn't as bad.
Cyberpunk.
I played that on PS4 Pro. It wasn't as bad. No, the
Oh,
worst
okay.
the worst one, the loudest one I ran into was Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But no, so she was very happy with it afterwards. I was surprised. The reason why I also wanted to bring this up is because so again, I mentioned she's 18. At one point she had seen my game room, and she's like looking at the consoles there, and this made me so sad. I just walked out at one point because she's like, "Oh wow, you got like that's cool. Is that like one of the PS?" Like she looked at my PS3 Slim. She's like, "Oh, is that like an earlier PS4?" I said, "No, that's a PS3 Slim." And she's like, "Oh, do you have a 360? Oh, that's super cool. Wait, which Xbox is that? What kind of Xbox is that one?"
Oh, the original, and it's the
She was
original
pointing to
one.
an original Xbox. She had
Damn.
absolutely no like frame of reference or recognition of it. And it just I've told a few friends about this, and the most accurate visual I can provide is that one gif from Saving Private Ryan where the soldier ends up just aging instantly, and that's exactly how I felt right there. Because thinking about it, the messed up thing is there's a lot of people who we're now at a time where there's a lot of people who said like, okay, how does she not recognize the Xbox? Like that's crazy. But if you think about it, it's like someone who was born in 2005 really wouldn't have any organic memories with the original Xbox unless they
Yeah, no.
had one kicking around or they went back and looked into it.
And the original Xbox only like sold slightly better than the GameCube.
I think so. Yeah.
It's like a 3 million unit difference or something. It's pretty
Yeah.
close.
Yeah. And the PS2 just is an absolute
Yeah, and then
juggernaut
there's the
right there.
PS2. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, no, that was one of those that's probably one of those moments in life I can pinpoint to where I'm just like, I feel very old right now.
You get that a lot with like the Game Boy models, especially because there's so many Game Boy models. So it's like how do you like how is someone who's not familiar with this going to discern like the original from the color, from the pocket, from the
Fair,
yeah.
fair, fair. Yeah, that was my you're getting old moment right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because it's just again,
You're old.
yeah, yeah, because again, it was, and she had like, I mean, also granted, this was like seventh generation lasted so long, but it's like she grew up with the 360. She knew how to use it. She could recognize it, but there was just, I'm telling you, absolutely no recognition of the original.
Yeah.
Yep,
That's bananas, yeah.
it truly is, man. Yeah. Well, what's also bananas here is, I know this is one of the things you want to talk about here. Uh, how do you feel about Red Dead Redemption?
Oh, I like Red Dead Redemption. That's a good game.
It is. It is.
They re-released it like a
They
week
did.
ago, and it was a big surprise.
Was it a surprise? I guess I was
Well,
following like some
yeah,
leaks and
true.
stuff.
It was
Like,
well, I guess it was a surprise in that Nintendo announced it one morning,
there we go. Yeah.
and it was just kind of like, oh yeah, this exists, and it's not a remake. It's like a straight port.
Yep. Yeah. I'm too side. So first of all, I can see the business sense from it because it's
Yeah.
one of those games. I've done some thinking on this, right? And for anyone who doesn't know, yeah, Red Dead Redemption ended up getting re-released recently. It's the original game with no multiplayer, but it has the Undead Nightmare DLC. It's $50, I want to say.
Hmm.
The physical edition is going to be coming out in a couple months, but it's on PS4 and Switch.
Yep.
There's no Xbox One or Xbox Series version coming out because they have the 360 version they're relying on, and there's no PS5 version. I don't even know if there's PS4 Pro enhancements on this one here, and then of course the Switch one is just the Switch right there. Uh, but the thing with this is that it's just $50. You're getting both packages in there, so essentially like Game of the Year edition of what you would have gotten before.
Yeah.
But it also just straight port. No huge enhancements, I would say. It's not running at 60 frames per second, which was just absolutely shocking right there to most people. And again, it's not taking more advantage of the higher end hardware. Like there's not
Yeah.
a PS5 enhancement, there's not a PS5 build of it. And they didn't even want to port it over to the Xbox version. Like they didn't even want to wipe out the 360. They said you all are just going to keep your 360 version right there. The main benefit I can see from this, which I can understand from this point of view, is that I know. No, I was thinking of Last of Us. That was a whole other thing. It's more. I'll say this real quick. I know The Last of Us that got a lot of flack because when it came out, you remember it got remastered like a year after it initially released.
Yeah.
Like it came out PS3 2013, right before the new generation came out, and then it came out as a remaster a year later. But that
Yeah.
was like it didn't have multiplayer, but it had the extra DLC. But when you play that game, it is refined, it is running at a higher resolution. It's also running at 60 frames per second, and that was actually a really good remaster for all
Yeah.
intents and purposes right there. Like that was a good remaster, I would say. And even I remember Sony kind of responded to some pushback. It was either Sony or Naughty Dog, but they said essentially, yeah, we've noticed that, like, just looking at the data here, 80% of PS4 owners right now did not have a PS3, so they didn't have the opportunity to play this game, and there's no backwards compatibility.
Yeah.
So I know with that, at least, Xbox has backwards compatibility with the original Red Dead Redemption, but there are a lot of people on PS4, especially, and I guess PS5 as well too, who would like to play the first Red Dead Redemption, but they don't want to dig up a PS3 and they don't want to go over to Xbox. And the Switch gets it just because Rockstar was able to prove they can do that with LA Noire.
Yeah. And this is a better port than that LA Noir port, too.
I would say so. Yeah, wasn't the I remember this at the time, and correct me if I'm wrong, but because LA Noir, I want to say the port came out on PC, Xbox One, PS4, Switch, but the parity was crazy on there to that where it was like the Switch version was pretty good, but all the other versions were literally just the Switch version. Like it was the
So
same benefits essentially.
LA Noir got essentially like a big like texture redo. It got like
Hmm.
a 4K texture set basically.
Hmm.
Um so and the game was already like not, I guess not graphically gimped on like PS3 and 360, but like I mean that LA Noir is a looker.
It is. It is. It's a beautiful
So
game.
yeah, so it was more that the PS4, Xbox One versions were just like LA Noir running in 4K with 4K texture sets.
They weren't even running at 4K though, because remember that was the original system, so they were running in 1080p, and even if they had the 4K
Yeah.
textures there, you couldn't see them.
Well, they were on PS4 Pro and One X because this is like 2017.
Was it really that? Oh
Yep.
yes, yeah.
Yep.
All right, all right.
The Switch version got all of the new 4K textures, and then it also got the refined. I forgot what they call it now, but it used to be like like truth lie doubt, and now it's like accuse deny doubt or something.
Interesting. Okay, I didn't know they
But
changed that.
yeah, but visually, like the Switch version, it didn't run totally stable. It would like drop frames sometimes because like the open world in LA Noir is fucking huge.
It's LA. Yeah.
Yeah, and also it was using like PS3 like LODs and reflections, I think. But like that looks good on a handheld. It doesn't really
Yeah.
look. Yeah, like it just looks like a combination of it's kind of like how the Dark Souls remaster on Switch is like it's not the remastered graphics, but it's like the prepare to die edition PC graphics set to high. So
Okay.
it's like oh, it's kind of like a best of both worlds kind of thing. It's like in between generations.
Hmm.
But as when it comes to RDR, like it is the game. It is how RDR is basically presented on like the Xbox Series consoles, but at the Switch's native resolutions.
Sure.
And then they added FXAA on top of it.
Yep.
So yeah,
Yep. Yeah. Uh, I really just wish they would have made it 60 frames at least. That would have been nice. And it's like we've seen from the lovely like modding community as well too. That is totally possible as well. I know MVG did a good video on it recently, but without all too much tweaking on a modded Switch, you can boost it easily to 60 frames per second, and it
yeah.
works just fine for the most part. It seems.
I think they didn't. I think the reason they didn't go for it is because it's 30 FPS on Xbox backwards compatibility, and
Okay.
so they were just like, "We'll keep parity there." I mean, I the 30 FPS debate is always like I don't know. I guess for me, it doesn't bother me too much simply because the original game was that way. It definitely
Sure.
does like suck. It is annoying. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm not. I get it. I love my high frame rates, but like it's not like I know there's like some people nowadays who are like it's just simply unacceptable. But like I think really my only issue is just the fact that it's like $50. If it was like 30, I'd be like okay, whatever. I don't.
Yeah, that's what I was expecting too. I'm like, okay, like $30 for this would have been fantastic.
I don't mind like I guess we could also talk about like the Metal Gear because that's also been like the Metal Gear collection's also been talked
Jesus
about for
Christ.
also
Okay, I've
yeah, that's been a
what
mess too.
yeah, what's going on with that? I've just seen some things where
So
in short from what I know, it's like the first few Metal Gear games are coming out and they're going to be running at like 1080p 60 on all the new systems. Well, PS4, Xbox, PS5, new Xbox, except for Switch is getting 720p 30. Does that
so
sound about right?
It's Metal Gear Solid 1 is emulated, which is not surprising in the
No, not
slightest,
surprising.
and probably how it should be presented. Doesn't matter, just use DuckStation. But that's I hate doing that, by the way. I hate being like, just emulate it. Cause like, yeah, of course you can just emulate it. But like the point of a lot of these re-releases should just be to put the thing as it's like intended on a modern platform.
Yeah, I will say right off that I think the thing that gets me is when people see the decompilation projects and they're compiled up and working natively on new hardware or a computer or something, and people say just emulate it, and I'm like, no, that's not the point of this. You don't understand what's happening here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
They're cooking something special with those. Man, I
exactly.
want that. I think the Perfect Dark decomp is out now, or at least a
Yes,
very early version of it. I need to check
yes.
that out.
And I've been told it's pretty good. I haven't tried it yet, but I just feel like Adam Sandler right there. We're just like, that's history right there. You understand that?
But yeah, like I don't mind Metal Gear Solid 1 being emulated, maybe just like throw in save states. That's like, yeah, whatever.
That'd be
Uh
cool.
but as far as Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3, it seems like they are based on their HD collection versions, and it seems like they're just doing like straight ports of the HD collection with some fixes. They want to like fix up some like visual
Mhm.
bugs with the original, but it seems like it's going to be 1080p 60 on everything that isn't the Switch, and then if it is a Switch, it is 720p handheld 30 FPS, and then 1080p 30 FPS and docked. And that seems extra bizarre considering
Yep.
that, like, yeah, this the Switch is definitely like, I mean, first off, those like Metal Gear HD releases are not even like they're not even like the biggest like 360 PS3 like powerhouse games.
Oh
Like
no.
those are not LA Noir. Those are not Red Dead Redemption. Um so it's already crazy that a system that, I mean, the Switch gets a lot of flack because it's a low powered, like tablet SoC, which,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what a handheld is, gamers, but like it's no slouch. Like it can still do some pretty amazing things, even if it's running like the crustiest version of The Witcher 3. That's
Yep.
still that still says a lot more about the Switch hardware than like, does your
You,
phone run the Switch, The
you
Witcher
can
3?
you can quite literally play The Witcher 3 on mobile hardware.
Yeah, and is your phone $300? That's the yeah, like,
or 200 if you're getting a light.
yeah, exactly. So, it's no slouch. It should not be running these games at 30 FPS.
No.
It's I mean, at the same time, I don't want to be like a hyper reactionary gamer, because at the same time, like, it's not the biggest deal breaker. I'm getting my gamer card reversed, like revoked for saying that, but like, I mean, Metal Gear Solid 3 is a video game that has never run at a stable frame rate on any platform except for like the Xbox
Yeah,
360.
I was gonna say I played it on the 360 and it was great on there.
It's completely stable on that, but if you play it on it's so funny seeing people be like, it could run on 60 FPS on the PS2. No, it
No,
didn't.
no, it did
No,
not.
it did
No, it
not.
did not.
It didn't run at 60 on the PS2. It didn't run at 60 on the 3DS. It didn't run at 60 on the Vita.
So
It
then wouldn't it be fair to say if it was running fine on the 360, then we should also have that same expectation on the Switch and
Yeah,
even the other systems like, hey, 60 frames per second, that's fine. That's what we want. But why the
yeah.
1080p limitation? Why are you boosting this to 4K?
I think the only thing with that, the only reason I can assume there. Also, actually, I wanted to bring this up because we mentioned this with RDR, because there was a lot of confusion on whether or not RDR had any sort of resolution boost too, and that game does. Technically, if you're playing on PS4 Pro or PS5, it does run at 4K.
Mhm.
So that's nice, and you can choose between FXAA or FSR2 to clean it up, which is really nice. But the UI still runs at 720p, so
Yeah, like
so
literally,
it's,
and we're talking not just the UI, we're talking like the map. So you bring up the
yeah.
map, and the map itself is 720p.
Which I think for Switch, totally fine. Actually, I don't. I think, like, aside from the price, I have no complaints about the Switch version of RDR. If it
I want it to
was,
be 60 frames, but that's just me.
yeah, I mean, yeah, well, I don't know what, but I don't know what the answer to that one for Switch is. I think for Switch, if they want to keep it at 30 frames, especially because to get 60, like you had to really overclock the shit out of it
You
for those
do, yeah.
mods. You have to do some crazy like past the Nvidia Shield Pro clock
It's
speeds.
it's pretty much you need to, like, if you're gonna do it portably, because even, in MVG's video again, I think he even docked it, and
Yeah,
it was not able to hit 60 stable, but in portable mode, he essentially had to do reverse NX, so he was able to run it portably as a docked system, but at that
yeah,
portable resolution, so he was able to get the higher, clock speeds and such on there, and then pretty much boosting all the clock speeds, and it gave him 60.
yeah. I
It was
mean,
nice and
on
smooth though.
PS4, I don't get it. Like
Yeah.
clearly, like the PS4, PS4 Pro, PS5, they're not putting in like hard work to get RDR running,
I mean
and
they didn't even do it for the PS5 right there because again there's no build of it for
yeah,
PS5. You're
it's
just
just
playing the
PS.
PS4
Yeah,
version. Yeah.
as I said, I think the only explanation there is just to keep they don't want the Xbox compatibility version to look bad, which is funny because I mean you can buy a $5 copy of RDR and it has the multiplayer, so the Xbox version is just kind of better, like
Although
economically.
although I think the multiplayer is pretty broken on there if I remember correctly. I don't know if it ever got fixed.
I don't know. Yeah, that's a whole other that's a whole other thing. But and then with Metal Gear, it's like technically. I mean, with the HD ports, I mean, these companies don't need defending, but at the same, it's like because they're just in it for the money. Uh, but like you got to remember about like project budgets and stuff like that, and if they're pricing like these HD versions of Metal Gear at like $20 per game, then I mean they're clearly not like seeing those games as like, I mean, like trying to think of the best way to word it, but like Rockstar is pricing that RDR port at 50. So obviously
Yeah.
they think higher of that game. They think it's like that game itself is worth more just on
They
the virtue of it being based. But like
They do, but even you see they did like a,
yeah.
that awful like trilogy re-release of the 3D Grand Theft Auto games, and even that I would hazard and say that was a better deal because it came out for $60, but you're getting 3 games, which I would
Yeah.
gladly, and I would gladly pay $20 for Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, San Andreas separately on there. So
Yeah.
like that was understandable. Also, I mean that was there was a lot that was going on there. It's still pretty broken, but that was also more work unto itself because they were doing an engine swap on that too.
Yeah. Well, my point was more so being that at the Metal Gear games seem like at least for me, my expectation is just that they're supposed to be more kind of quick and dirty ports. They are more for like preserving the games on newer platforms than these being like the ultimate remasters.
Hmm.
So they for that it might just be like, oh well, if we're not making 4K texture sets for Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3, then we just like won't make them 4K on the new systems.
I guess I don't know.
Yeah,
I
that's
I
that's
just
the I'm not like trying to excuse it. That's just like me rationalizing it.
sure, sure.
Yeah.
And at the same time, for me, I'm just like it's Konami. They got the money. They can do that. Like
Yeah, of
Rockstar, they
course.
got the money. They can optimize. They can do these things.
Because conversely, Night Dive not only put out one incredible remaster in the last couple weeks, but two with remakesters with Rise of the Triad and Quake 2. And those are like,
I actually didn't know about Rise of the Triad. I've
yeah,
never played that.
and like the effort put into those are like the polar opposite
Hmm.
of both of these collections and the RDR thing. And Quake 2 is like $10.
Yeah,
Quake
yeah,
2 is
yeah.
basically just a new game with a Quake 2 skin
Pretty
thrown over
much.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been. Have you now? Because we're kind of shifting a little bit. Have you played the Quake 2 remaster?
I have played the Quake
Okay.
2 remaster. I've been playing
What
it on. Actually, I've been switching between Switch, Xbox, and the Steam Deck.
Oh, look at you like balling out there with it. I've been playing it on the Switch because that's where I'm comfy with it. Although I am one of those people, proudly I can say this here, or proudly I can say this. I do have Quake 2 on the Xbox 360. I got that Quake 4 release that had the bonus disc that had a Quake
Mm.
2 on it.
I have the PC equivalent of that. There's also a PC version of Quake 4 that came with the PC version of Quake 2.
I didn't know they did that. That's
Yep.
cool. Yeah, but yeah, no, I end up getting that on the 360 though. It's literally one of those kind of just like hidden gem type things because it's not heavily advertised, and also
Yeah,
when
they
you
also didn't like re-release it otherwise. I think it's
yeah, so
only on that bonus
it's
disc.
only available physically, and it's weird because it has like 9 achievements, and all the achievements are worth a 0 gamer score. But then the other thing is, I swear, like if you get a copy of it, you get it used. It is like this. There's nothing wrong with your copy. They literally just took the bonus disc, put it in a white slip cover, and just threw it into the case. It's not even
Nice.
one of those like nice like dual disc type of cases there. So that's how it comes. If you ever track one down, definitely recommend it because from what I know, that Quake 2 physical is kind of hard to find now. But
Oh
that was a
yeah.
really good port. With I know I rewatched some Digital Foundry footage and they were really complimenting it because when the 360 first came out, it could only do 720p 1080i. So that's what this port was running at. But then when the 1080p update came out, the game natively runs at 1080p and it's
Hmm.
1080p 60 and it just like there's no issue with it. It doesn't drop in frame rate or anything. Like it's a perfect remaster in that regard that just went mostly under the radar. But
Yep.
now we have this bigger one on newer systems from Night Dive, which is just it's very good. I'm only a couple levels in. I've been playing like one level a night essentially when I do get around to it. Um, but I held off. I was telling you, I held off a bit on getting it because I've been trying to be a little more thrifty with my games because I'm like, I'm guilty of buying a lot of games and not playing them.
Oh yeah,
So
it's
when
the
I
worst. Yeah.
yeah, so when I bought it, like, when I was gonna buy it, I was excited because Quake 2, it's a remaster, it's only $10. It's digital only right now,
Hmm.
but I looked and I'm like, I am not going to buy this because I I played a little bit of 3, but I've mostly played Quake 2, Quake 4, and I missed the first one. And I was like,
Yeah.
I am not going to buy this game because it could just collect digital dust when I know for damn sure I have Quake. Actually, like 2 copies of it. I have a digital and physical, the original
Ooh.
one, and I have not played it. So I decided to make myself play through the first one, which was a very enjoyable experience and like something where we were talking about this before, but because I started with Quake 2 and I went onwards and I never went back to the first one, I always forget how goth and Lovecraftian the first one is. And it's the
Oh
only
yeah.
one like that because all the other ones are just spaceman shooters.
Yeah, well, because the history is that like this was like John Romero's like look the first Quake was kind of like all John Romero's idea
Mhm.
until Carmack was like, I want to make a 3D engine. And then eventually everyone was like, all right, this is taking too long. We'll just make Doom again. And by that point, John Romero was like, if they're just gonna keep making Doom again, I'm fucking out. I'm
Yep.
done. I'm gone. Uh and so they had like Trent Reznor doing the sound design because he was a huge
Yeah.
Doom fan. And Quake One is just like really, 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 really special. And then they just like started making some other shit, and then they were like, "Oh, it's a shooter too. Just call it Quake 2."
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a very good shooter and the music is awesome. Like it's a good
Oh
shooter movie,
god,
but
the
it is
music is so fucking good. Oh my,
yeah.
apologies to Trent Reznor, but holy shit, is the Sonic Mayhem soundtrack to
Yeah.
Quake 2 fucking awesome.
Yeah, and it's because it's like it goes like the Quake 1 soundtrack is incredibly atmospheric and
Yeah, it's
super
all
well done.
ambience basically.
Yeah, but Quake 2, it's like I played it initially when I was a young kid and I can still remember like I was still remembering the guitar riffs from the second
Yeah,
level.
it's
So
like
when
the
I heard them last night I
cleanest.
was so happy.
It's like the cleanest produced like butt metal. Like
I'd say so.
yeah, like ever. It's really good. And then of course he also did the Quake 3 soundtrack.
And see, I Quake 3 is the game I have the least experience with out of the mainstay Quakes. So, I'll probably have to get around to playing it after this. I like back in the day I had it on PS2, but my disc would just freeze after the initial cutscene.
Yeah, well, because Quake 3 is like it's like multiplayer only for the most part. So, which by the way, like both the Quake 1 remaster and the Quake 2 remaster has like a new campaign by
Yeah.
Machine Games.
Yes, yeah, it includes extra campaigns on there. I think it wasn't even the new campaigns that got me. The thing that really wanted me to play them was both of them, Quake 1 and 2, have their 64 counterparts on there. There's
Yeah.
this Quake 64 campaign on the first one, and then Quake 2 64 on the second one.
Yeah, and it's funny because like how Quake 164 is presented as like as an add-on, because Quake
Yes.
64 was basically just a straight port of Quake 1 onto the N64, just with all the levels as like one big campaign instead of in episodes. But there was no way in hell Quake 2 was ever going to run on a fifth generation video game console. Like, not a chance. So the Quake 2 64 is like a completely different video game, and it's treated as like a map pack for the Quake 2 engine.
Yeah, yeah, and I've never played either of them because actually my experience with Quake 2 wasn't even on PC. I mean, I played it on 360, sure, but my experience was playing it on PS1 originally. That was the port I was playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought it was cool.
I'm surprised they didn't call it like Quake 2 console. They specified the N64 version, cuz I'm pretty sure the N64 and PS1 campaign are like the same.
They're different enough because the
Okay.
PS1 version ended up handling just the way things looked and all that very differently,
Well,
just
yeah,
because of the
cuz
limitations of the system.
yeah, but I think map layout they're pretty similarly or not.
I'm not sure. I'm actually
Cuz
not
I
sure on that.
the first like I think I've played like 5 minutes of Quake 2 PS1, and I just remember it being like, oh, this is just Quake 2. It's
Mhm.
just N64 but on a PS1.
Fair, fair.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
I saw some people on Twitter wonder if they do a Quake 3 remaster, if Night Dive does Quake 3, will Machine Games make a Quake 3 campaign?
that would be interesting to see.
Cuz otherwise it's just bot matches.
Yeah, which I think they did I feel like they did some kind of campaign in some way, maybe like on the PS2
I was
version,
gonna
because
say I think the PS2 version maybe has like cutscenes or something, but
yeah,
it's still just Quake 3.
it did. Yeah, kind of like what they did with Unreal Tournament 3, where there is some cutscenes, but the campaign is really just bot matches, and that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because Quake 3 has like no campaign at all, so I'd be very curious. I don't know. I think that'd be cool because like I guess what it's like oh it's just Quake 3 again. I guess otherwise it's Quake Live again. It's Quake Champions again.
Hmm. Yeah,
Oh
which
man.
I do need to play that. I need to give it more fair share because I actually think I played more of it. I played bot matches of it at least on the Dreamcast. Back when
Hmm.
I ended up getting a Dreamcast from my first like job, I guess. And it was cool. Like I liked it, but then when I went back to it years later, I'm like, oh wow, I really played this with the Dreamcast controller. It's there's something there with having a second thumbstick, man.
That's why you can plug a keyboard and mouse into the
That
Dreamcast.
is true. And actually, a few years ago, big shout out to one of my friends, Donald. He ended up tracking down a like not new in box but complete in box Dreamcast keyboard for me.
Ooh,
Yeah, he ended up finding one at a game shop, and he was like, "Hey, dude, didn't you say you wanted this?" I'm like, "Yes." And then he ended up getting it for me. So I don't have a
nice.
mouse though, but I have the
Oh.
keyboard.
Uh oh man, that Quake 3 port on the Dreamcast is super cool. I remember like a lot of people saying that Quake 3 on the PS2 is not very good, but like I've busted that out and played with friends like a few times, and it's a hoot and a holler. I guess maybe because it doesn't have like all the maps, and it's
Sure.
like it visually kind of different. They had to kind of rebuild that game for the PS2 because even in the early 2000s, consoles were just like not matching like advancements in PC technology.
Sure, sure. Yeah. There was one thing I was actually going to link you because one of my friends ended up linking this to me. I don't know if you saw this here.
Mm.
I just want to
Let's
get
take
your
a
reaction
gander.
on this real quick. Speaking of the whole Quake franchise.
Because they made not only is Quake 2 open source, but yeah, the re-release is open source too.
Yes, yeah.
That's
So
very cool shit.
I
Yeah.
just linked that to Colin here, where there is a new-ish It's currently at the time recording, and by the time it will be released here, it'll be like a 3-week old repository. But from id Software, there is a GitHub repository for the Quake 2 re-release, not the original one. We're talking the re-release right here. They ended
Hmm.
up putting it up as open source.
That's sick. Yeah, I think they did that with Quake as well.
I
I think
know
it's
they
because the original games are open source, so they just like
correct.
it might
Yeah.
be whatever Carmack laid down in stone when he made those original games open
Yep.
source. He's like, yep, these new versions have to.
Yep. And that's actually one thing one of my friends he pointed out to me, and I even said, I was like, yeah, oh, that's cool. I mean, that makes sense because I know for sure like John Carmack open sourced the original Quake, and my friend's like, yeah, but this is the re-release, the one that just came out. I'm like, oh, that's super cool then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you know that John Carmack I don't know his email address off the top of my head, so people are gonna have to look for it. But apparently he responds to all of his emails.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. He I think he was on way back when he was on an episode of Joe Rogan, and like they couldn't believe that. And he said, "Yeah, no, I still take time out of my day." And it's not like he gives like giant like multi-paragraph responses, mind you, but
Oh yeah.
he just makes it a part of his day. It's a habit that has never left him. He goes in there and he just responds to emails.
I've heard I know Gabe Newell reads every email that's sent to him
Okay.
because everyone Gabe at valvesoftware.com.
I mean,
Every
Gabe is even another thing is, and I don't know this off the top of my head, but apparently
sometimes he'll reply.
he
If it's
sometimes
like if the question is like worded specifically enough that it's not like NDA, because obviously you can't just send him like when's Half-Life 3 and he's gonna be like next week. It's
yeah.
not
Yeah, but I think some people they asked him like Steam Deck questions. They're like,
exactly. Yeah.
because when this was still up in the air, like I think some people did ask him like, hey, if I get a 64 gigabyte Steam Deck, can I put a SSD in there? And he said yes.
Well, initially he said no. That was the
Oh,
that was the thing. He initially said no, and
really?
then they walked back on it. But I think that's
Okay,
because I think it's you could probably guess that the Steam Deck was originally not meant to be very openable, and
sure.
it wasn't until they said that out loud to the public that they were kind of like, oh, maybe it should, and so they made like some reservations for it. Because when you open
Yeah,
up the
they
Steam Deck, it doesn't seem like as much as they're like, yeah, it's super repair friendly. It's not really laid out that way. It's just laid out like any other device.
sure, but it's thankfully it's pretty easy to do. I would say
Yeah.
if you have some experience in that, and even Valve came out, and I remember they initially said like, hey, we don't recommend you do this, but if you want to, here's how to do it.
Yeah, don't stab the battery.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
don't want
don't
to
do
do
that.
that. Yeah, no. No, there was definitely that. What was the other thing? No, I think because this is going back a little bit, but I'd had one person on here, Jason from Game Rave TV. In short, the TLDR is that he ended up finding a Doom demo that was disabled on a PS1 demo disc, reached out to me for help. I reached out for some others to help. And then we ended up finding it was X41. He was, well, there was two people, Retro Reversing and X41 were able to get the demo running in separate ways. And then we end up going with X41's implementation. But I remember at the time, like Jason was really just trying to figure out like how this could be, why it was on there, why it was canceled. And I just content, like not content. I responded back to Jason. I was like, why don't you just ask John Carmack? And I remember he was kind of like, "Oh yeah, sure." I was like, "No, seriously, just, like straight up email him because he'll respond." And he ended up covering it in his video, but in short, he ends up writing like multiple paragraphs, just pouring his heart out, telling everything to John Carmack, and just ask like, "Hey, do you know anything about this demo? Do you know why it might have been canceled?" And John Carmack's response was, "Sorry, no idea," which is like, "Oh, okay." Like 3 words, like we have an answer. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah. Which I mean is fair because like he didn't, I mean, to my knowledge, he didn't work on the PS1 version, but
No, it worked on like the really early console versions of their stuff, and then they just sort of like handed it off to whomstever because they had other
Sure,
stuff
because
to
that
do.
was I remember with Doom, that was the custom PlayStation edition is what they called it.
Yeah,
All right, sorry, we had to cut there real quick, but we were talking about the early console ports, which I did not know about here.
yeah, it did the very early ones. They did the Jaguar, and they did, I think they did some work on the 32X. I think
Okay.
there's like an email, I think that's like John Romero saying like your pants are gonna cream this Christmas when Doom 32X comes out.
My
Which is
goodness.
like the rushed port of all rushed ports. At least until that 3DO version came out. But yeah, I think after that they just handed it off.
Wasn't the 3DO version supposed to have a whole bunch of extra like cutscenes and extra lore added and everything, and then all that got scrapped?
Uh there's like I don't know the full I forget the full story off the top of my head, but I think it's something like they had like presented the idea, like they had done like some test recordings of
Hmm.
like cutscenes for Doom, and then they just didn't go with it
Gotcha. Because
because it's too
I want
fucking
to
stupid.
I want to say it was a few years ago, and I feel like it was more akin to like there was just limitations of it and like coding everything. But I want to say it was a few years ago. There was someone who like posted up on Twitter, like they're like, "Hey, I was actually involved with this project, and like, look, I found the original props, and like here's some like behind the scenes photos, and they had like some of the
Yeah.
masks that they used. You know what
Uh,
I'm talking about?
yeah, a bunch of photos have gone live. I think like the actual source code of the 3DO version of Doom has just been made public.
That's awesome."
So you can go into it and just be like, what did they fucking do? Um but yeah, I believe like they had, because they had made like this demon costume, and they were like, oh yeah, we're gonna make all these cutscenes with this demon costume, and they shot some promotional photos. They brought it to E3 at one point. There's like a couple photos of it walking around like E3 '95 or whatever. But uh yeah. I think the craziest thing about that port is that it's like soundtrack is done by the CEO of the company that did the port, and he had a band, and he just re-recorded like all the Doom tracks from memory with his band in his garage.
That's actually amazing. But was it good?
It is good, and because
Okay.
because it's a 3DO, it's CD quality audio, so you can just
Mm-hmm.
get the nice flax off of the CD.
There we go. Yeah,
Yeah,
I have a 3DO. I need to play it, but
I
also
like the
do I really need to
3DO.
play?
It was
Look,
not it was not meant to be $700, but
I mean, it was being sold as not. They didn't know how to do video games at the time, so they were kind of selling as an all-in-one, media center. It's like, hey, this is a CD player and it does games.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool thing though. What's not cool is I think you had linked this to me right beforehand. So
Oh.
this PlayStation Portal. What are we
Oh.
talking here?
Oh man. So yeah, they announced that during the PlayStation showcase. When was that? It
Yeah,
was, yeah, it was the showcase in June, right? Something like that.
yeah, and so it looks like it quite literally looks like take a Switch tablet and then cut a DualSense in half and then just glue each half to each side of the Switch tablet.
Yeah, it's Sony made a new handheld, but it's like a cloud streaming
And
handheld.
it's
Except it's not a
it,
it's even weirder. It's not a cloud streaming handheld. It's a remote play handheld.
so they made a Wii U for the PS5.
They did. They made a Wii U Gamepad for the PlayStation 5. It's
Oh,
$200.
mhm.
It has yeah, it's got a whole ass dual sense on it.
Yeah, it is an 8-inch LCD screen. It tops out at 1080p 60.
Yeah, and then yeah, it connects to your really like the big meat of this thing is the fact that it's using like a new streaming technology. It's like PlayStation Link or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is supposed to be like their new super low latency fast streaming stuff. Um but it only does that.
Hmm.
It only does that. It only remote plays. This tweet I sent you. There's a Tom Warren tweet that I had
Yep.
sent Mario earlier in the day, and it's got a bunch of bullet points on it, and every single one of them is bad in a completely like not even trying to be like a reactionary gamer, but like
No.
every single one of these is not good. It's like new PlayStation Portal details, no Bluetooth, like that
You
sucks.
you have to buy new PlayStation Link compatible headsets, is what it says.
It does have a headphone jack, but yeah, there's
It
no
does?
yeah, it doesn't
A
have
new
Bluetooth head.
portable device in 2023 from a big company with a headphone? What? Are you
Yeah.
serious?
There is it does nothing locally. You can't play like media files on it. Which also brings up another point. Would you even be able to use streaming apps on this thing? Because when you use remote play on any PlayStation, it acts like you're turning like HDCP off. So you can't like
Oh,
stream Netflix, but like
you're
would they block
right.
it from this thing because it's literally just a tablet? It doesn't seem like it even has like a video out or anything, which I think is kind of disappointing.
I'm willing to bet they would block it.
Yeah, and then this is these last two are something else. Even though it is a remote play device, even though this thing is supposed to be connected to Wi-Fi at all times, it cannot do any PlayStation Cloud streaming. So I guess what used to be called PS Now, but now it's like PS Plus Premium, whatever the fuck. It doesn't do that. Which why? You would think it would just be like a separate executable when you're like turning the thing on, is just you go to like cloud mode or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, it doesn't do that. And then the final bullet point here is targeting the same battery life as DualSense controllers, which is not a selling point.
No,
Not a
no.
selling point at
You
all.
gotta realize, like, since the PS3 to PS4 to PS5, the battery life has been getting worse on these controllers.
And it's like there's something so kind of like shockingly useless about this thing. Like
Hmm.
it's honestly incredible to see a device in 2023 come out that doesn't like you can put like technology has come so far in the last like couple decades that like even the most menial things will just have like random other features cuz like you can just do that. You can
Yeah.
just have it do XYZ feature that takes like no time for whatever low powered SoC to
Hmm.
do it. I mean, the Logitech G Cloud, which is also cloud streaming focused, is still an Android tablet. Like, it can still run video apps native on it. You can still play games and emulation natively on it. And that thing is also how much is the Logitech G? Is it also like
I want
two
to say it's
hundred
200 bucks.
bucks?
I really haven't looked into it, but look it up real quick.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that
Yeah,
right.
we're gonna get a real like check here on this.
It
Yeah.
is 290. Okay, so it's 299, 349.
Okay.
So
All
no,
right.
it's $100 more, but still, like,
Isn't the screen on that thing real nice?
I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it's also a full HD screen with a 60 hertz.
Okay. All right. All right.
So yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I don't like. I guess if you really, if you really want to play your PlayStation in a different room of your house, and only a different room of your house, and you don't want to use your phone, even though it has a remote play app, and you don't have like a Steam Deck or any other device that does PlayStation Remote Play, like my fucking Apple TV has PlayStation Remote Play. Uh, if you don't have any of those things, or you just don't want to use any of those things, but you still want a dedicated like handheld for like that like it seems so specific, but I guess
Hmm.
if you really just want that specific use case, then like yeah, go for it. But like I remember like Xbox wanted their what was it, Project Keystone or something. It was like they were also
Oh,
making a cloud streaming box, and they also wanted that thing to be $200. And that's
mhm.
like that. I mean, that's even like why, like fucking
It
these devices are doing less than like Amazon Fire TV sticks, and those are like
I
$50.
Dude, I quite literally I mean, well, there's,
Yeah,
like, some kind of clickbaity news out there right now where it's, like, one of the people who literally hacked Rockstar Games went to a hotel room and had continued some of his hacking from a Fire TV. So you can be more dangerous with that, but then you're dealing with this here where I'm like I quite literally looked at this and I had said, like, "You can get more functionality and features from the AliExpress special at this
yeah.
point."
Serious. I mean, like I had a few years ago. I bought like few years ago. Oh my god, this would be like 7, 8 years ago now. But like, I think we were kind of talking about this in the DMs last night. We were talking about how like the tablet has kind of been fumbled.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And like this, I think this is a good example of this because like, why wouldn't you make this the PlayStation tablet? Why would you not make it like it's $200 and all it does is stream from your $500 PS5? That's
You
crazy.
you know what? I think my answer to that is because Sony, dude, with portables, they've been burned. When it
Yeah.
comes to gaming, the PSP so easy to mod that. The Vita got cracked wide open, so they really don't want to have another portable device that's going to have all this other stuff. So what they're doing is they're just going to lock this down severely and restrict it. The thing is, I do also anticipate this will probably backfire because there's going to be a lot of reverse engineers who are going to be really curious, pick this thing up for
Oh
$200,
yeah.
and they're going to say, well, why can't I watch my own media on here? Let's figure that out. Why
Yeah.
can't I? Why can't I do Wi-Fi streaming? Why can't I sideload another OS on here? Why can't I run Netflix or YouTube on this thing? Like, let's start getting this thing worked on and modded so we can actually do basic things on here.
Yeah. Although, so as I said before, kind of the crux of that is the fact that like, oh wait, PlayStation Remote Play is already available on everything. So
Sure.
if you just want a thing that you can connect your DualSense to, I guess really the only difference is that this. I mean, I haven't done it in a while. I know like there's like strings in like iOS to use like the DualSense's like triggers and everything. I don't know if they have that stuff working over remote play though. So maybe that's like that's how they get you this time around.
Maybe, and I don't know about that because I'm not a cloud person. I'm not a remote streamer
Yeah, no,
type
me
person.
neither.
I've messed with it. Like, sure, it can be cool, but there's always like a little bit of something I just don't like about it. So that's why none of this really appeals to me here. And also the device, I must say, the device is so ugly.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, for me,
no,
the main reason I don't want it is because I have a Steam Deck, which has
that's
remote play
fair.
on it, and that is a gamer handheld with. I mean, obviously, it's also like a whole ass computer, and it's like $400. But I,
I'd
I don't know.
rather
I think
I'd
most.
rather have a whole ass computer for $400.
Yeah, but and also like I don't know. I just don't like. I don't think I see a lot of people like. Uh, I don't know, rationalizing getting this thing. Like, I feel like the type of person who like wants like a handheld to play their games on is probably more. I don't want to make these assumptions, but like I feel like you know what I mean. Like if you're more in the
Yeah.
know about tech, like you probably are going to be way more interested in devices that actually do more. Like if
Hmm.
the target demographic for this thing is going to be like because it seems like they are trying to push a lot of this cloud stuff onto people who aren't like super tech savvy,
Yeah.
like you know, oh, it's like a lower entry for like a barrier for entry, and you know, you don't have to download things, you don't have to get like a hard drive or whatever, but like you still have to have a really good internet connection, and you still have to like vaguely know how all these things work to set it
Even
up and everything.
even on a good internet connection, like when I was because well, rip Stadia, but not really. But when I tried Stadia when it came out, I'm just like, man, I got gigabit right here, and I'm still running into some issues with this thing. Like this is just like it. you're always going to have some input latency. You're always going to have some lag. And it's like
Yeah.
people are just not really interested in this right now. And I hope they won't ever be fully interested in it. But like native is always just going to work better in that regard.
Yeah. But it's also weird because it is also completely held back by the fact that it doesn't really do anything else. So it's like you
You
can't take it out of your house. It will do nothing.
It's correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
quite literally, this is the type of situation where, let's say, you and your significant other are chilling on the couch. You're playing PS5. Your significant other says, "Hey, I want to watch this new movie on the big TV." Cool. You switch over to one of your smart apps on the TV. Then you pull this device out and you lay down on the couch or just sit there and you're playing your PS5 remotely, even though your PS5 is like 10 feet away from you or something. You're going to be
Yeah.
playing it on this little, essentially Wii U but PS5 gamepad at this point. That is like the most realistic type thing right there, I guess. Because
Yeah.
even I did this with the PS4, but there were times where it's like, this is like 3 years ago. The most I really ever got into remote play with these systems was when I was playing. I was just doing like some farming and stuff on like Final Fantasy 15, and I set it up on my Vita as remote play, and then I would have my PS4 running in my office, and then I'd be in bed before going to sleep, and I'd be playing a little bit of Final Fantasy there. And I did that like, dude, I'll tell you, I did that like twice. So it's like I have all this stuff to do it, and it was like it was okay, but I did it twice.
Yeah. I got really into like the remote play stuff on the deck because it's just like that is like nifty. That's
Hmm.
the thing. I actually really like remote play stuff, and especially like Sony's like works really well. But it is like the idea of there being a remote play handheld is like totally thrown off by the fact that they've already made it. You know, like they've already put remote play on PC, on your phone, on anything really. So if you already have those things, like you don't need to spend another $200 on essentially just a screen for your.
I I also really don't know how often like people really use remote play. Like I don't know how many people are like truly reliant on remote play for their gaming needs, you know?
Yeah, I mean it's yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I think the worst thing also about this thing is, as I said before, it doesn't really give you a lot of options, even if you are really into remote play. I can't
Hmm.
plug this into my TV. I can't have like a little like PSTV sort of thing for like
Yep.
a different TV.
Yep.
It's all on the tablet. It doesn't support Bluetooth,
Yeah.
so that I guess that also means you can't really like hook up a second controller to it.
I don't think you could. Even with that, it's like not with a controller thing, but I was just thinking of this like years ago. I did a talk with one of my friends, just old video on the channel. We were talking about what we thought of the Switch, and in there, I remember saying that now playing the Switch is like like just kind of a busy 20-something-year-old at the time. I was like, I now I'm wanting these kind of devices for my other systems. Like I would love to have a switchified PS4. I would love to have a switchified Xbox just to have that option. Like that's what I'm really liking. The problem is this is not that.
Yeah, no, this isn't. And
This is the equivalent of the Wii U gamepad for the Wii U, which I remember even when I was playing the Wii U back then, it was pretty much a prototype for the Switch for me because I said, "Wow, this thing is awesome. If only the actual console was the gamepad. If only I didn't have to rely on the system itself."
yeah,
You could make it kind of portable if you want to. I actually knew someone who did that where we were at like a little gaming event essentially, and like back in the day, he had his Wii U with him, and we had talked about it, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you can bring it around with you." And I'm like, "Wait, what are you talking about?" He quite literally puts his backpack down. He has the Wii U in there.
yeah.
He
If you
ends up,
just plug the Wii U into a
yep,
wall,
Yep,
that's all you
yep.
need.
He brought the power brick with him, so he plugged the Wii U into a wall outlet and then turned it on from his gamepad and was playing right there. And I'm like, that is super cool, but that is also so nerdy. But this is
Yeah,
also the exact type of thing I would expect from gamers in the computer science department here. So this is an oddity. This is an exception right here. This is not the norm.
I had like a little shelf above my bed, and you can just put the Wii U on the shelf, and then you just like
Yeah,
grab the tablet whenever you want, and you can play the little little tablet in bed.
exactly. And it works for that point, but it's like, well, also I'd really like if, the actual console was just the gamepad, which is what the Switch is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, like I was using remote play, just like there's certain games I don't want to like buy again on PC, or I'm just like
Oh, sure.
they're just only on PlayStation or something. And the remote play actually like works fast enough that like yeah, that works really 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 well. But
Mhm. I'm sure for anything that's not like crazy timing based, like as long as you're not playing like a racer or something, it's probably fine.
yeah, but it's probably not, buy a whole new electronic just for this. I mean, because I like when Xbox was talking about their cloud streaming thing, you could at least assume that it was going to do more than XCloud. If it's like a box you have to plug into your TV, you could probably
Yeah.
play apps and stuff. Like, throw that on there. I don't know. You fucking your Kindle Fire. Little cheapo Android tablet that can also probably do all the same shit is like under $100. This is what I was trying to get
Yeah.
at. There was like I bought like an HP Stream 7 or something that ran like a whole Windows 8.1, and that
I
thing
know
can
what
do
you're
remote.
talking
Yeah,
about.
that thing
Yep.
can do remote play fine because it's just H.264 video. So like yeah, I these things, it doesn't need to be $200. I don't even see why it needs to be $200.
I don't see why this device needs to exist as it is in its current, like, severely limited state.
Yeah, no, exactly. The fact that it does like so, it's like it's such a singular use product is really bizarre. It's
Yeah.
honestly like even in like a world now where we have like $200 like AirPods and stuff, like those can do like crazy. Actually, I was gonna say
Yeah.
along with this PlayStation Portal thing, they actually did announce new like headsets, and those are all like way more interesting from a tech perspective than the tablet, because they're like planars, both they're they're planar headphones and planar earbuds. They use both this PlayStation Link technology and support Bluetooth. They're using like AI driven noise suppression. Like there's a lot of crazy shit going on with that. And then
Sure.
you look at the PlayStation Portal, and it's like, yeah, it connects via remote play,
And that's it.
and that's it.
All it does, it connects to your PS5 locally. That's all it does.
Yeah, it's really, really strange.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like this thing. I think there's been some people I've seen talking about, or they're just talking about, oh yeah, it's new e-waste, and I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I ain't even gonna front on that. Like, it's e-waste to me.
I wonder if it even like would sell enough to be e-waste to even throw a dent.
To maybe the positive is we can look in the future and we can see if this goes the way of the PSTV, where this thing will start getting clearanced out for like $29.99, and then we can
Mm,
buy like multiples of them, and then some really cool like security researchers and such will be able to crack this thing wide open, so it'll be a lot more useful. And then once it's no longer pressed, it'll be going on the market for like $300 once it's usable. So I might just wait to see. I'm not going to be getting one of these things new. I don't plan on getting
yeah,
that. But
no,
like,
yeah.
no, because I have no need for it. I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, I don't want to bring on new stuff. Like, I only want to bring on something new if I have a need for it. But no, if I see these things getting clearanced out really cheap, I might buy one or two of them.
I'd want to try out one of these headphones. I bet they're pretty. Sony can make some pretty good headphones, so
Oh
I'm
yes, they
sure
can.
I'm sure
Absolutely.
these probably sound pretty cool.
Oh yeah, yeah. I have no doubt about that. Yeah.
Oh
Uh,
man.
Speaking of headphones, I know there was one thing you wanted to talk about.
Right, yeah.
Costs. Yeah, I think this is the last like pre-topic thing we had here. But yeah, so these Koss headphones are, as I knew of them, these were the ones that rest in peace to one of the greats. But like Etika wore these headphones. I remember his
Yes.
reason for it was he said they're cheap, they're not half bad, and they are the only like over the ear on ear headphones he can wear that didn't interfere with his hair.
Yeah, I forgot why I was talking to you about Koss headphones. I don't
I
think you
think
like asked me about recommendations. I think I was just because
you got I remember you got the pine sill like soldering iron, and then you were really excited to do one of your first mods on them, and then you started
oh
getting me onto them, and then you just like brain dumped onto me, and I'm just like, damn it. See, the thing I love and hate about you is that now you're making me want to buy something, and they were really cheap. So I ended up buying, I didn't do any physical mods like with, a soldering iron, but
yeah,
I ended up getting the Koss headphones for like $20. And then I ended up getting some ear pads for like $12, and I run them through my BTR5, and they're good. I've traveled with them and everything.
hell yeah. By the way, the model for those listening is the Koss KSC 75.
Yep. Yep. And
Specifically the X, the drop. Uh, I keep forgetting what the name of that website is because I keep
drop.com, I think. It
because
used to
it's
be called
mass. It
Mass,
used to be Mass Drop. Now it's just
and now it's just
Drop.
called Drop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I just got the ones from Amazon, and like the best thing is with these things too, they sound pretty good as long as you can really drive them, but
Yes.
they are cheap looking. They
They look like
are
shit.
They do look like shit.
They look
I
like
think my
shit.
girlfriend even said when I showed her, she was like, "Yeah, that's kind of like an anti-theft thing unto itself because
Yep.
people are going to look at them and they're going to be like, who the hell's going to steal? Like, I don't want to steal these garbage headphones."
Yeah. Koss is this company that has been around since like the 40s, the 50s. Their big claim to fame is that they made the first stereo headphone, which is
Hmm.
that's cool.
It is.
But their modern claim to fame is that they made a bunch of headphones in the 80s and 90s, and they just still make them, and they're dirt cheap, and they just happen to sound really, 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 really good. They just
Hmm.
managed to pull off making some like best bang for your buck headphone drivers, and they've just been shoving them into like 50 different configurations ever since, and they're all like $30 or less, basically.
Because I mean, I do enjoy Dank Pods, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, but he said something. It's like speakers and headphones. Like when you get good speakers, good headphones, they don't go bad.
No,
Like
yeah.
as technology advances, you're going to get more features. You are going to get better ones, but like a good pair of headphones from the '90s doesn't stop being bad just because it's old. It's still going to be good in 2023.
Yeah. Uh, and I, oh man, I love these things. I'm still using them. I'm not using them right now because we're recording a little
Sure.
podcast and all the fucking voices would leak out my ears. But yeah, if you need dirt cheap headphone recommendations, uh go get KSE 75Xs. Maybe throw like a headband on them if you don't like the little ear clips thing, if you wear glasses. They're super comfy, they're super open back. They sound very fun, very exciting. You can kind of EQ them to sound really nice. And yeah, I just modded like MMCX connectors on them so I don't have to worry about the wire.
That's nice. That
Because
is
the wire
nice.
is pretty like cheapy garbage, but
It is, but
$20 headphone, yeah.
exactly. The best thing is they are $20. So yeah, and even to just repeat to you all, yeah, it's the Koss KOSS KSC 75, and then the specific ear pads I got, which I'm big on the ear pad game, I guess. I got these Yaxi ear pads. They
Yeah,
were 12
Yaxi.
bucks, and they're good. Yeah, no, they're nice, they're comfy, they're good. Because that's actually one thing with headphones, man. And I was telling you about this. It's when it comes to this, one thing I that kept me away from headphones for so long was, all the headphones I was using were pleather. And like I
Yeah.
don't like pleather. It hurts. It's itchy. It falls
There's also
apart.
some very cheapy, shitty pleather.
Sure, I was using like the Audio Technica
Yeah,
stuff
oh
though,
yeah,
which
and and those
which
things
like
also like
should be good.
squeeze your brain. Like they
Yep.
have so much head clamp. That's why you have people who get those big divots in the top of their head because they're using these like
Yep.
super heavy, clampy headphones.
Yeah.
The cost, even with like the cheapest, shittiest little headband ever, weighs nothing.
Yep.
It's like they just float on your head. They're almost like
I
they're not there.
I believe that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think that was one thing I was complaining about with them. And then some friends ended up putting me on to the world of you can replace your ear pads.
Yep.
So I ended up replacing them on a few headphones I had and just made them absolute game changers. So I even did the same thing with the Koss ones here. I ended up changing those ones up. I put one of my friends onto them as well. Not these ones, but she ended up finding a pair of Sony headphones that she very much liked, and
Ooh.
pretty much the same complaint. She's like, man, I was looking at these and I love them and they have all the features I like and they sound really nice, but I'll tell you all, they hurt. Like, I just can't use them for that long. And they just hurt my ears and they kind of hurt my head. And I'm like, yo, let me put you on. If I was you, these are the exact ear pads I would get. And they were like a much nicer quality and everything. And she just saw that. She had no idea, just like me, that you could, like, there was a market for this, that you could replace the ear pads so easily.
Yeah.
And she was super excited. She's like, that actually sounds exactly like it is. I like everything about these headphones except for the ear pads. And you just fixed it for me.
Yaxi, I've ordered from Yaxi before too, because they fascinating company. They're a Japanese company that started like because there's this is like going into headphone lore, but there's this pair of headphones that Sony made in the late 80s, early 90s called the CD900s, and they're sort of
Okay.
like they're like an audio engineer. Well, they have a bunch of like monitoring headphones. Most people have probably seen those, like the blue stickered Sony monitor headphones,
I
the
know you're
MDR
talking about.
7506s. They're like you watch like a Howard Stern clip, they're all wearing them.
Yeah.
Like they're just very popular headphones. And
And
so
they're not. I'm looking at them as well. They're not like bank breaking either. Like the MDR CD
yeah, they're just
900. They're
80
like
bucks.
$100. Yeah,
Yeah.
80, $100. Yeah,
And that's because they're just like they're really cheap like voice monitoring headphones. They're not really made for music, but you can just do that because they're
sure.
headphones. But the CD900s were like a collaboration between Sony Electronics and Sony Music, like the publishing label. And they
Hmm.
wanted to make some really nice headphones for audio engineers. And they're super weird. They have like a hardwired like 6.5 inch whatever the 6.5 millimeter jack, like
Yeah.
the quarter-inch jack.
Hmm.
They have really thin ear pads because the drivers sit like right up against like the your ear holes basically.
Sure.
They're very flat. They're kind of not that super comfortable, but they sound unlike anything else, especially for like studio monitors.
Okay.
And so they have this like they if you want to buy a pair, they're only sold in Japan and they're only sold from Sony. You basically have to like order them straight from the manufacturer.
Interesting. All
But
right.
they've been doing it. They've been selling these things as is, unchanged, since like 1991,
Hmm.
and they're really popular. But as I said, the pads are really thin and they're really like uncomfortable. So Yaxi was like, love these headphones, let's make genuine like comfortable pads for them. And then they just started building out their repertoire.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I actually have a pair of CD900s right here with their microfiber pads on. They're
That's
really comfy. I
that is
don't
awesome.
I don't really listen to these as much now, but they are a really, really, really fun headphone.
Hmm.
If you buy these things and then you like listen to city pop, uh, it all makes sense because these are the headphones that music would have been like mixed on.
Okay.
So
All
it's
right.
like, oh, you're like, oh, I get it now.
This makes so much sense.
Yeah, it's just like shit really like pops on those. Like just old like rock analog recordings really pop on those headphones.
That's fair then. That's fair. Yeah, I mean, it's been a thing like the last few years, just talking with friends and all that. It's also like that's when I've gotten into. It's not like I'm like big into it, but then I end up getting like the FiO like BTR5
Oh yeah.
from DankPod's recommendations, but also she's like, oh, it's not, you can't really fully enjoy headphones if you just take them and plug them directly into your phone. You should really drive them with something else, and that makes it doesn't just make it louder, it really makes a bigger difference.
Yeah, plus those costs are like 60 ohm headphones, which
Yep.
is crazy. It's like crazy.
Yeah.
That's like
Yeah.
studio monitoring.
Which I remember I told you at the time when I got them, I was like, yeah, like I plugged them into my FiO and I really had to turn up the volume on them to really
Yeah,
drive them. Yeah. But they're good.
they're
I like them.
great.
Yeah.
Did something happen?
Hmm?
Did
Like,
something cuz
mm,
I think I had mentioned.
no, I think you just said you wanted to talk about Koss headphones, and I was
Okay.
like, oh, okay, that's it. No, 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 no. Mine are sitting on my table.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
because
No.
I think you're like, oh, I have a story for you, and I was like, oh,
Oh, no, 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 no. I think it was some of this other stuff here. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, oh, I think also, by the way, the last time we did an episode, I think we were talking about how I was getting into like media server stuff, and I was questioning if
I,
whether or not you could do that with music. The answer,
yes,
by the way, is absolutely, and
yes, you
it's
can.
fucking awesome.
You can even just go as small as like just like set up Plex and put all your songs on there,
Hmm.
and then like people are using Plex amp and they're just like going nuts
Yeah,
on it.
that's
Yeah, yeah.
exactly it. They
But by the way, I was gonna say real quick, I just looked at our chat. The story I was gonna tell you, I already told you. It was the Xbox store, the sad one where you like get
Oh,
the
okay.
that was it, man.
It
Yeah,
was
because
just
that killed me a bit.
the way we lined up that conversation. It looked like it looked like you were going to tell me that someone had eaten your.
I mean, Lily's pretty good about electronics, so thankfully no. But
Yeah.
you're
Oh,
you, you're
yeah, I see. Okay, I see what happened here.
yep, yep.
This is-
But no, you were talking about getting a. So did you get like an audio server set up then, or what?
yeah, last time I was like, I don't know if Plex can do music or whatever. Like, I knew it could, I just didn't really like
Yeah.
look into it. But like, yeah, I've been using Plex Amp. There's actually like two big ones. There's Plex Amp, which is like connected to Plex, obviously, and then there's Roon, Roon.
Okay.
And the difference between the two is that Plex is $5 a month, or like it's a one-time payment of, I think it's 120 to own Plex, like
I want
the
to say
premium thing forever.
I want to say because I actually bought them. So if I don't know about Plex Amp 100%, but like just using the Plex app at least on mobile,
Yeah.
it would be $5 per account that you want to put it on.
Okay.
So if you have like like an iOS or in my case like an Android account here, on my account I pay a $5 one time fee and I can always watch videos and stuff remotely on that. And then the lifetime subscription on your Plex account itself,
Yeah.
that you can put on the server. You can unlock extra features and all that. Yeah, you can pay a monthly fee, or if you're like me, you just want to do it lifetime. I think it's $150. I want to say, but
Ooh.
there are
They do
as long as you
discounts. Yeah.
yeah, as long as you do your discounts. And I waited until they offered me a 50% off. So a few years ago, I paid $75 for it. So all in all, in total, for like actual Plex software, I've paid $80 my
Yeah.
lifetime. And that I'm just like, yeah, I like the software so much that to me, that's just like a tip. It's like, hey, you're doing a good job. Here you go.
Yeah, like because I talk to friends who also do this media server stuff, and they're like, like MB and Jellyfin are free, but I
Yeah.
think I like the Plex apps. Like they're not bad. I think the main Plex app needs work, especially if it's like if you're using it on like Fire TV or like on consoles. Oh my god, the Plex app on consoles is
It,
really bad.
trust me, it used to be worse.
Yeah, I know. But Plex
I
Amp, their music
real
app is
real
great.
quick, I'll just say this: when I first got my PS5, no, when I got the PS4 actually, so not when I first got it, but like for a bit, like my girlfriend and I, we were watching a bunch of stuff on Plex together, and I just had an issue. Like within the first time I would fire up the Plex app, we'd start watching something. Within 10 minutes, it would just crash, and it
Oh
was
yeah.
every single time. So then you'd have to open it back up, and after that, it was fine. But it was like every single time when you first open up the Plex app, you start watching something, and it will crash within 10 minutes.
Yeah. I know there's like alternatives. I know last time I talked about you could just, if you have an Apple TV or something, you can just use Infuse and it works 300 times better than the default Plex app. But if you want to do all the watch together stuff, you have to do that in the Plex app, and that's like
Yes.
it's like super jank.
Yep.
But Plex Amp is very good. It's like it's very very good.
Yeah, I need to actually because I have most of my music collection on my server as well. Just as a backup there.
Yeah.
I need to try out Plex Amp. I haven't tried it, but I've heard excellent things about it.
The two things that immediately sold me on Plex Amp is that one, it has like auto EQ built into it, which is
Oh,
fucking
nice.
insane. It's so good.
All
You can
right.
just type in whatever pair of headphones you have, and they have they like, because it's taken from the
That's
auto
cool.
EQ project. So it's like Critical and artings.com and like a bunch of other
Yeah.
resources, and yeah, they have all these custom profiles, so you can just hit like Koss or Sony or whatever, and then you have that set up.
That's awesome.
It's also per device, which is kind of cool. Like if
Okay.
you like are listening and you set it like when you have like your BTR5 on, but then you switch to like plugging it in directly into your phone, like it will like save like your EQ setting depending on what input you're using.
That's actually really awesome.
It is, so I don't have like my
You're
Koss
convincing me to
EQ.
use this
I
now.
don't have my Koss EQ on when I'm in my car.
Hmm.
Oh, that's another thing. They have Opus transcoding for audio,
Okay.
which is actually like really sick because Opus is like a newer like compression method. So it's
Yeah,
like it can compress down better than MP3 while still retaining like more data, which also means if you're on like a shitty cell connection, music just loads basically like instantly because the file sizes are just like way lower.
that's super cool.
But if you're on Wi-Fi, you can have your SACD rips or whatever.
Hmm.
I know
That's
I
awesome.
do. Yeah.
I don't think I have any SACD rips. I think the closest, like the really the one I'd want to do is, and I think I need to. I th- I don't know. I think I would need to like get like my backwards compatible PS3 and run it on like a
Yeah.
3.55 custom firmware and then use SACD Ripper. And I don't even think it's SACD. I don't know if I own SACD. Lateralis by Tool
Oh.
was an HD CD, I want
Oh
to
yeah, you can just
say.
do that on your computer.
Okay,
You can
okay,
just
but I
use like EAC or something, and then just like
okay,
extract it in HDCD. It's like decoded.
when when I was looking it up years ago, it was essentially, I think the thing I picked up was also most rippers aren't going to pick it up, but even if you are able to pick up HDCD, it's not a standard CD, it's not a SACD, but if you rip it in HDCD, people have said the difference is pretty minimal.
Yeah, well, because it's like they're using like oh this is crazy they're using like data dithering or something like that to hide extra like bit depth in the CD data.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's some really crazy stuff, but basically
And that's the exact thing that was so Tool as well, because I'm like, that's the exact thing that they would do. Like they were
yeah.
always just like pushing the limits of like their physical releases.
There's a lot of Beach Boys releases that are HDCD. Like
That's
the
cool. All
Smile
right.
sessions, the Pet Sound sessions, those are all in HDCD.
Okay. I did not know that. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. But I don't own any SACDs.
I have a few, and I was like, "Oh, you can use an original PS3 to rip these," and it was like
Hmm.
only if it's the one that plays PS2 games,
Yep. And
and
then
then
I think you also have to be on a 3.55 custom firmware. I don't think you can do it on just like the latest.
yeah, I'm not sure, but a random a Blu-ray drive I bought from I bought from my family like 10 years ago has SACD support, and you can just load a custom script on a USB drive and plug it in, and it'll like it does some crazy shit where it like connects your Blu-ray drive to the network, and then you like load up like a Java configured program on your PC, and you like rip the tracks over it's crazy shit. Like
That's awesome.
it's so cool. Yeah.
That's really awesome. It sounds even cooler than ripping HD DVDs.
Oh yeah. Oh man. I've never gotten that to work. I have the Xbox Drive, and it should just
Really
interface with Make MKV apparently, but I've never gotten it to work.
interesting.
Doesn't
I don't think
matter.
you're
All
missing out
those
on
discs
too.
are dying anyway.
Exactly. Yeah, all those Warner Brothers
Yeah,
discs.
they're all
Like,
just
oh
rotting
yeah,
away.
exactly. Yep.
Yikes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're getting close to the end here, so I did want to ask a couple things. One of
Ooh.
them was I wanted to ask you. We've talked a little bit, I guess, throughout this, but what games are you currently playing?
Quake 2, baby.
Same here.
Yeah, a lot of Quake 2. I've also been finishing up I've been playing this on off, but the Guardians of the Galaxy IDOS game from 2021.
Oh, okay.
I've been playing that on the Steam Deck because I love my Steam Deck. And
Steam
also,
Deck is good.
yeah, I actually, you know what's I set up trying to play this game on the Steam Deck, and every like video I saw was like, here's the best settings for Guardians of the Galaxy on the Steam Deck, and it was basically like turn everything down to as low as possible because you'll never get a steady frame rate. And then I found out that
Okay.
someone made an FSR 2 mod for Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's crazy. It's like you throw this like DLL into the game files, and it basically replaces the DLSS information with fan made like FSR2 integration.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the point is the game runs at like medium settings, 40 FPS now,
Okay.
which is a
And
which is a huge leap. It still will like drop in frames when things get really heavy, but yeah, I mean like we're gaming,
we're
and
gaming, man.
that's a good game. That's a really fun game. It kind of disarmed me, like how good how good it is.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think I've heard good things about it actually. I just haven't played it, but yeah.
Yeah, I remember like they announced it at like that Square Enix thing, and they just
Yeah.
like they were like, "Here's 20 minutes of this fucking game, and it's out in September." And it just like it just had this like air to it of like, oh, they're just like that Avengers thing flopped, and now they're just trying to get this out of there.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's like a single player ARPG. It's just like just has a campaign, and it's written really well. It's really cute. It's the main reason I had played it is because I had just watched like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 had just come out, and I watched basically the whole franchise like in 1 week. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, I could keep doing that. And so I picked up this game, and it's like it does a really good job at like feeling in tone with those movies while still being like its own separate piece of media. Like it doesn't take place in the MCU or anything. It's like it's more like sticking to the comics.
Mm-hmm.
But oh my god, it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, has those been the main games you've been playing then?
Yeah, just Quake 2, Guardians, and oh, I restarted Wolfenstein The New Order.
Okay.
Uh I've been like trying to kind of re-go through the Wolfenstein games. I think Wolfenstein is just such an interesting franchise, and
Mm-hmm.
one that I guess I don't have my finger on the pulse of, because like my opinions on these games are like so much different than fucking anyone I talk to. Not to say that I don't like them. No, I actually really like them. Maybe a little too much, because I think games like Spear of Destiny and Youngblood are actually like pretty good, and I think people shit on them like a little too much.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just me. I know the second. I don't want to be Wolfenstein Youngblood, strongest soldier, but yeah, I don't know. That game's good. I like
I
those
got you.
games. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually I dabbled around with it because I never finished the New Order. But I or did I? I don't remember if I did actually. Um, do you know about the 360 version of it?
I do know about the last gen versions. Well, the
Yes,
last gen versions of.
yep. It is. It's pretty impressive for what it was. I bring this up because I was actually little tease for
That
maybe
was
an
a big
upcoming video.
deal.
It was because it came out so late and it shipped on 4 discs. And here's the
Yeah.
thing, from what I understand, the Wolfenstein: The New Order on 360 technically is unlike any other game on the system. And what I mean by that, I'm not talking about like graphically or anything. I'm talking about the installation because remember, it's on 4 discs.
Yeah.
And
It's a
in
big
short,
game.
yeah, and in short, there's 2 kinds of discs on the 360. There's going to be games where you just play them and you might or might not be able to, install them, where you just install them through the NXE. And then there's going to be content discs, which are essentially like the DLC discs. Like you can get the DLC disc for Skyrim or Fallout or something, and you just put it in, you boot it up like a normal game, and then you just install it.
Yeah.
And the actual files it copies to your hard drive are just content package files that get copied over. So you just have the ISOs, you can open it up and like extract the files out and then just copy and paste it directly like those content packages onto your hard drive, and you're okay at that point. Um, Wolfenstein is different because it has 4 discs. None of them are labeled as a install disc, but the first one acts as one. It is a game disc that you cannot install directly on the NXE, but you have to boot it up like a game. And then as soon as you boot into it, it says you have to install it. So you hit A, and then it takes like 45 minutes to install the game from disk, right? Because you have to do a necessary content install, and the odd thing is, you have to do it that way. You have to
Yeah.
pop it in and install it from the game itself. You can't just do it from NXE. Even if you have the ISO, if you open it up, the content files are not there. So it's like it takes the files and repacks them on the fly on your system to a content like a content package that then lives on your hard drive. And it's the only game I've ever seen on 360 that does that.
Yeah, that's, oh my god. And it
Yeah.
was a big deal too, because like I remember they announced that game and they were like, yeah, we're targeting 60 FPS on every platform,
And it
including
works.
360 and PS3.
And it
And it
works.
does work. I mean, the games are like ugly as sin because of it. Like I
Mhm.
remember some of those levels on PS3 and 360 almost look like they don't have textures, like they just left in like all the materials and like the bump mapping, and they were like, yeah, they're hallways, looks good enough. But
Fair.
yeah, like, oh man, but that game is awesome. That game is like it's super solid. It's really fun. Feels really good. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I hope they make another. I don't. It seems
I
like they're
don't know if
not, but
I don't know if they will because of that second one didn't do too well, I think.
yeah, two. Well, like all these Bethesda games are all like sleeper hits, but like I
Yeah.
think, unlike the Doom games that have always gotten like really good positive word of mouth, the later
Mhm.
Wolfenstein games not so much. I
Yeah.
kind of want to just
Yeah.
play through them just to like I guess see how I stand on them because I do like those
Fair.
games. Plus, it gives me an excuse to play through like 3D and Return to Castle Wolfenstein in 2009 again. And I like all those games too.
I've never played 2009 and I've always wanted to, but it's on my list of games to play.
Yeah, well now it's like Lost Media or whatever.
Yeah, because well, I mean, because it
Well,
officially released, but isn't it you can only buy it physically? You can't get it digitally anywhere.
pretty much. It used to be on Steam. I own it on Steam.
Yep. Yep.
It's because Activision published it, but it's like an id game and it's developed by Raven.
Yeah.
So the rights are just kind of all over the place. They were able to
So
get
about
Quake 4 to go back to id, but not Wolfenstein 2009.
yeah, yeah, some odd thing like that. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess yeah. I mean I'll hop in with the games I've been playing. So this month here I end up finishing a few. I end up finishing Saints Row the Third on Switch, which is
Oh man.
it was fun. It was like it was actually a. I mean it's rough, mind you. Don't get me wrong. But it's just a game. One of my best friends and I, we both have. We have a weekly game night, and when it's just the two of us, as opposed to our group, we've been knocking it out bit by bit. So that was really fun to play through. It the final mission snuck up on us. Like we were playing this mission, and they were like, "Oh wait, that's the credits. That's it."
It's...
So that's how that was, but it was still really fun. Ended up, with my Steam Deck testing and all that stuff. I actually end up accidentally finishing Untitled Goose Game because now it's to the point I
Ooh.
can finish that game in like an hour. Love how it runs on there. And then, as I said with you, I'm playing Quake 2 right now, but I started and finished the original Quake, which I very much enjoyed. I played that on the Switch.
Oh yeah, it's a one of a kind all time
Yes.
banger.
Yup, yup. It's good. It's good. And there's like I mean, you can play a game like, one of the new boomer shooters like Dusk, for example, and I'm like, "Oh, I can see like how they do a lot of I think we lost Colin. Uh-oh. So we lost Colin. We got you back here, thankfully.
Yeah,
But
you were
no,
saying?
yeah, I was saying about with Quake and everything, I can see how there's like newer boomer shooters like Dusk mainly. That's the main one I can think of where it takes
Hmm.
pretty heavy inspiration from the original Quake, and I can now feel like I can appreciate that one a lot more. But like I said, just with Quake being the first one being so unique as it is, which is very gothic and Lovecraftian, which I didn't even know was Lovecraftian until I looked it up. But it's very much like that, where you have the knights and the odd enemies and everything, and then all the others they're good games, mind you, all the other ones, but all the other ones turn into spaceman shooters.
Yeah, Quake 1 is like so visually creepy.
It is,
It's a creepy little game. Even though I mean everything is like super blocky and everything has like 2 frames of animation cuz like animation interpolation wasn't like a thing
yeah,
in that engine
yeah,
until much later, but yeah, I mean like they wanted like this, like just this really like thick atmosphere. It's like taffy thick gothic atmosphere. And
Yeah,
then paired with that Trent Reznor sound design, I mean, it's just one of the best sounding games ever, too.
it is. Did you know? Speaking of the sound, did you know they released the Quake soundtrack on vinyl?
I do. And
Yeah,
I know they had to censor. I have it. I don't have it with me, but I have it just in my possession. And I know that they had to censor like a bunch of the images on the inside
did
or
they?
something because it's like not officially sanctioned by Bethesda or
Oh, I did
some
not know
weird
that.
shit like that. Yeah.
Okay. I had no idea about that. That's interesting then. I just saw it there was like several months ago. I ended up going to just a little like pop-up shop store, I guess, and they had a bunch of vinyl there. And I
Mhm.
was like looking through and I'm like, "Oh, Quake." And then I took a photo of it and I put it back cuz I'm like, I'm not going to listen to it, but like still cool." Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it's released through like Nine Inch Nails and Trent Reznor,
That
so
sounds
it's
about right.
like
Yeah.
yeah, so they have to kind of wrestle for it, even though it's
Mhm.
their
Which
stuff.
which is understandable. Yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah, real cool.
Yeah, I like. We only like briefly talked about it, but I really like those new campaigns that they've included with Quake 1 and 2.
I haven't played them yet because I was like, I need to just finish this game and then move on to the second one. But I do need to play. Although, funny enough, I do want to play the 64 campaigns just because I want to see the differences on there.
Oh yeah, well those have the Aubrey Hodges soundtracks. So
Yes,
if you like ambience, if you like Doom 64, then if you like stereo panning, you'll really like the Quake 2 64 soundtrack.
I'm looking forward to this then.
Aubrey Hodges like figured out how to do getting shit to move from the left channel to the right channel and back, the Doppler effect on the N64, and he went ham with it. He's just
That's
like every
awesome.
track has to have it.
Truly dedicated to his craft.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I think those were the games that I've been playing here. So it's been a fun month.
lots of boomer shooters.
Exactly.
Hell yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And the Goose Game, of course.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like we can wrap this up here at this point. Dude, I really want to thank you for coming on. It's been a fun conversation having
It's
you as
been
a
a
repeat
dense
guest.
conversation.
Yeah, hey, man, we've just been hammering this out right
But
here.
luckily, I mean, it's all been like topics that overlap on each other. It's like
Exactly.
half of it's remasters. I mean,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Hey, you know what? This whole episode we can call it a remaster. We're just remastering episode 51 at this point.
it's the year of 720p, baby.
There we go. I'm all for that. Now, as I asked you in the previous episode you were on, but I'll ask you again here. Where can people find you online if they want to follow you, check you out, see what you do?
Source gaming is where I guess the grand majority of like any sort of like actual content output goes. But I also have a Twitch that I've been trying to get back into streaming more on. I have like a lot of backlog stuff, and I want to kind of get through that. So streaming will do that, and then I just put the vods on my YouTube channel. And that's really it. Wow.
Perfect. All right, all right. I mean, I'll go ahead and get the links from you as well too after that, and then we can, I'll link them down below in the video upload. So if anybody wants to check out more stuff from you, they certainly can.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tribes.
And then for our final question here, typically I like to have a keyword or a key phrase at the end of this episode. And then what we do is we can go through the entire, like all the comments and stuff when people are putting up stuff. And if they use this keyword or key phrase, we'll know that they've made it to the end of this episode. So I guess I'll ask you here, Colin, what keyword or key phrase would you like people to use?
Oh man. I think last time we did use headphones. I think the last one we did was we said
I don't remember.
headphones, but
I don't
I wonder
remember. I'll
what's a
be
good
honest.
one. Clementine.
Clementine. All right. All right.
Clementine, the like the orange
Yeah, or the character from the
from
first
The Walking
Walking
Dead.
Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good game right there.
Hell
But
yeah,
yeah,
classic.
so there you go. If you use the word Clementine in your comment on the video upload here, we'll know that you've made it to the end of this episode. Again, Colin, I want to thank you for coming on. It's been a really fun episode here.
Yeah, man, it's been great.
Awesome, awesome. Well, anyways, this is Mr. Mario signing off. Thank you all for listening and watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode, a like would absolutely be appreciated. If you didn't like it, a dislike is fine as well, too. But as I always say, again, this Mr. Mario signing off. Thank you all for listening and watching, everyone. And until next month.